There you go. In a good spot. See, look at that. We're already on track, man. Hey, I've been diving into your stuff, obviously, to get ready for this. Doing some great work, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, doing some really good work. So I'm really excited to talk about it, to highlight it. Our job here, you and me have the job of jumping in and talking all things Josh. And we'll get everybody an overview of all the things that you're up to, and we'll bring in some of these guys here for some good questions here before the hour is up too. We just want to highlight everything that you're up to, man. So appreciate you taking the hour.
I'm excited to be here. Pouring into a group, it's one thing to be on a podcast, one thing to pour into a group. It's totally separate. And I love to have impact. So I'm ready to rock.
That's awesome, man. And this goes as both. So it's kind of a cool, unique thing. We'll put this internally for all of our guys too, but we all, get it externally to all of our listeners too, man. So it's fun. It's a fun format. Get to talk to amazing humans every week, and you being one of those, man. So yeah, it's good stuff. Been diving in, man. Been diving into all of your stuff, and I love your concept, the bridge builder, forged by fire, guided by faith. Right. And so taking a look at what you're doing with Kairos coaching, and I want to dive right into that too. Why the name Kairos?
Dude, this is such a great question. So the only people that have ever heard that word before typically grew up, and I can't remember the sect of the Lutheran church, but there's a Kairos camp that teenagers will go to. And
Yeah.
those are typically the only people that know the definition of Kairos or even heard that word because it's spelled different than Kairos, Egypt, right? So it's Kairos. And when I was going through my season of transition, that's when the word was brought to me. And as I dove into the definition, it was like a light bulb or a lightning strike just hit me because the definition in ancient Greek sense is a moment or era, a defining moment or era. And the ancient biblical definition is a divine moment when God acts. And
Mhm.
so my season of transition was the summer of 2021. And, if you guys recall that time, right, we're still in the thick of COVID, not as bad as 2020, but still in the thick of it. We're all married to these Zoom screens or our fluorescent lights. And I had just, at the same time, gone through a big transition with my very successful financial firm being essentially ripped away from me and in a really public manner, in a really ugly manner. So I'm going through the 5 stages of grief. I'm going through betrayal and shame and all this different stuff. And I was just like, man, that word, as I'm thinking about my next transition, that's what I'm going to name my company. And I'm going to get people away from these Zoom screens, fluorescent lights. I bought this beautiful farm retreat to get people out here into nature, tap back into themselves, return to their worlds as better humans.
I love it, man. I love it. That's rad. Yeah, I've got one other friend, and so that name, that word first came on my radar 8 to 10 years ago. A buddy of mine who started a series of charter schools in California. He and I had grown up and went to the same high school. I had started private schools out there. He started some charters and he named them Kairos. And so we sat down and talked about where that came from. Only other gentleman that I've ever met diving in, but a very similar story for him too. It was kind of a transition, and it was like, okay, here's where I want to go. Here's what I want to do. That ripping away of that firm in 2021, is that the what you call that fall apart moment?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what happened with it was I had 250 employees. We were managing about $4 billion in assets, and I was only 5 years into my run. So I took over and at 35 years old, and we were just churning and burning. Like we were doing well, continuing to grow clients, continue to grow money, recruit, develop all the different things. And I had a cancer on my team that I thought was just immature. One of my mistakes in that time was thinking it was chalking things up to immaturity. There were actual character flaws.
Mm.
And this person was a narcissist by by all definitions. And when you back a narcissist into a corner, it's kind of like backing a tiger into a cage, and
Mm.
they come out swinging. And so what this person did was sued me for discrimination, and the overarching Fortune 100 company that was kind of overseeing where I owned my firm decided to get themselves out of the lawsuit. And so they terminated me and had to buy me out in that time frame. And it was, man, this is so the thing about that. This I can talk about it unemotionally being 4 years removed from it now, but this was the lowest point. Like I thought that was my purpose. That's what I was going to do for the rest of my career from age 35 to 55. I was going to grow this thing as big as possible, grow as many people, leaders, advisors as possible, and have as much of an impact as I could in that world. And then at 55, figure out my next chapter. Well, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
That's
And
right.
then that's exactly what happened at age 41. You know, we grew through COVID 30%. It was a big shift. Like yeah, I was fearful. The whole firm was fearful too, because we're a 99% in-person business
Mhm.
across the desk, across the table, and we end up growing 30%. And we figured out some efficiencies doing this Zoom work as well. So things were really going well, and to have your feet or the rug just pulled right out from underneath your feet, it was a big shock.
Yeah, that's a big one, man. So you mentioned, God's plans and all of this, right? So, and I know faith is a huge part of your identity and how you build. So during this transition, this fall apart moment, having I like what you said, the immaturity versus character flaws, and I want to go back to that. But before we hit that fall apart moment, as you're coming through and having to figure out this rebuilding, did your faith come before that, or did your faith come because of that?
Mm,
Did it,
that's a
did,
great question. So I've always been a believer. Around 27, 28 years old, I started becoming a more dedicated follower.
sure.
And that was really inserting my father-in-law into my life. My wife and then my father-in-law and that relationship and how he became a spiritual mentor to me. So my faith was strong before that, but it got intensified during that period. Because
Yeah.
when you have everything stripped away from you, your identity, your purpose, your ego, all of that stripped, and you have nothing left, or what you perceive to be nothing left, you find everything you need. And that's really where you get to that pit of despair when
Yeah.
you're on your knees going, what the hell?
Yeah.
That's when God really enters and says, hey,
All right.
you're all
Ready.
right.
You're ready to roll now. Yeah, man. That in of itself is such an interesting concept. We've got amazing men that are here live with us, and amazing people who listen, and so many parents, so many entrepreneurs. One of the things we've come back to a couple of times, and this has kind of been that thread, is the thought of do we need, is that part of the design? Is that part of the DNA where we almost need that fall apart moment to get things stripped down to where we can then lean into the design of who we're supposed to be? Or are we able to, and as leaders, are we called to help others start to strip away and build out the real identity before even having to get to that fall apart moment, right? Like it's such an interesting,
Yeah.
and I don't know the answer still, right? And I don't know if there is an answer. What do you think on that? Because now you're helping so many other people too, right? Are you seeing where it's like, I got to get guys to where they hit that fall apart moment and then I can start helping them see things differently? Or are you seeing it more where it's like, okay, let's get that same energy and ethos without having to have something completely freaking break first?
Yeah, I think it's actually, I don't think there's an answer like you mentioned. I think
Yeah.
it's an and both versus an either or,
Yeah.
because that's why I wrote the book. That's why I built the LQ assessment.
Yeah.
Frankly, because as God was bringing me through this over the last 4 years, He's like, hey, those messages that you received, those lessons you received weren't just for you.
Mm-hmm.
They were for the world. So the book and the LQ assessment and the work that I'm doing now is to hopefully catch people before they have such a fall, to realign some priorities, get right with God, get right with their most key relationships, get right with their health, their mental, emotional, and physical health, making sure that our priorities are straight so that if we do have to have a fall, which I believe none of us get out of this life unscathed.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the fall that I had, but it could be a marital flaw, it could be a slip up, it could be something else, an addiction, whatever it may be, that brings you to your knees. That hey, we're wired for this. We know how to work through this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of my hope with it is hopefully I catch some people before they have a fall, and hopefully I catch some people that have been working on this stuff. If they do fall, that they know how to get themselves out.
That's great, man. I love that. Well, let's talk about the Kairos code, and let's talk about LQ and some of the things you're building, because I appreciate every single thing that I've gotten to dive into so far. So Kairos Code, you've got these five bridge, like this five bridges framework, right? And so you're talking about integrating all of those pieces in there. As you've been working with high performers in all these areas, is there a bridge that you see is most often neglected? Is there one that stands out?
No, I'll tell you the one that we all jump to, which is Bridge 4. It's our environment.
Yeah.
And it's not just our fault, like it's societal conditioning as well. So, but for everyone that doesn't know yet, Bridge 4 is your environment, which I put under that bridge, your professional world, your financial world, and hopefully you got some room for some creative and joy in that world. But we all skip to being the provider, the protector as men. We all strive for these, big goals, we're put out in front of us. So we tended to define ourselves by what we do, not who we are.
Right.
And so that was a big thing for me as well. As like I was the managing partner, CEO of this large financial firm. I had all these accolades, all these credentials. Like I hung my hat on that. That's not who. That was just a piece of who I was,
Right.
right? I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a son of God. I'm an athlete. Like I'm a great loyal friend. Like
Mm,
those are like we're comprised of so much more. Yet anytime we go to a networking event, hey, what do you do?
yeah.
Like it's the first question asked, and it's the worst one.
Yep.
So as kids, we get asked this question, and some of you may ask your kids this as well. What do you want to be when you grow up? Great question. Nothing wrong with it, except for we start to position them in that what they do is they're going to be their identity. And then that gets reinforced in high school with what are you going to go to college for? And then in college, what are you going to do with that degree? And it's all about the what and not the who. And so I think we just got to reposition ourselves in society a little bit more that our identity, because I got my identity stripped when I stopped playing college football as well. I was always known as the football player.
Yep.
Who am I when I'm not the football player? I'm
Yep.
still Josh. I'm still a great friend. I wasn't married or didn't have kids at that time, but there was all these other pieces of me that allowed people to appreciate who I was, not just the football player. Right. So, and people that have left the military, same thing. People that are high level athlete, same thing. We get attached to these things we do instead of who we are, and it really really cripples us.
Very much so. I mean, you're preaching to the choir on this, and a lot of these guys on here know I hate, especially working in education for so long. I have grown to very much dislike the immediate "what do you want to be when you grow up" question for these young people, because the more important questions, like you said, is who are you right now, and what problems do you want to solve? What are you interested in? What are you curious about? Who do you want to be? And what problems does that person want to solve? And what is he or she curious about? And how do we get from here to here with the who, right? The what and all that kind of stuff takes care of itself when you get the who dialed in like that. I freaking love that you're going there. And so that's something we continuously revisit, here internally too, is the who are you now? Who do you want to be? What's the bridge there? Because that automatically takes care of the what you're going to do when you figure out the who that is doing it. As you're looking at all, I imagine, so the LQ assessment guys that he created, so it's life quotient assessment. I'm saying that correctly,
Yep.
right? Okay.
Yep.
Life quotient assessment. And so it's kind of a this quick like self-evaluation tool. And it you're combining this and like EOS. And I know Gino, we've had Gino on here too. Good guy, man,
Yep.
super good guy. So helping leaders move from like that grinding kind of thing to genuine traction sort of deal. As you're looking at all of these tools for yourself too, where do you, like, if you had to pick right now, what do you need to work on the most? I always think that's an interesting sort of deal when we have our own, because we have specific tools that we've developed internally here too, right? And I go, hey, before I start disseminating it, where the hell do I need some help first? Like this isn't like let's N of one right now first. So when you look at that, where do you focus right now?
What's so fascinating about that question is the more I think the older I get, the more mature I get, the less I feel I know.
Man, yes, sir.
And so I think it's like and I was this way as well as a young bravado high achiever,
Yeah.
made $1 million before I was 30. Like I thought I had world by the balls.
Yep.
Like, and now in my mid 40s, I'm sitting here going, man, there's so little that I actually really know.
Yeah.
So to answer your question though, it's still spiritual for me.
Yeah.
And because like I do a really good job in this area. However, if I look at the gap between how great of a leader I am versus how great of a leader Jesus was,
Yeah.
like it's so vast.
Yeah.
And so I'm still in that, like I do a really good job on my internal, my mental, my emotional, my physical health. Like I stay below 10% body fat. Like I'm working out constantly, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Um, but spiritually, like the gap for me to get to, and I know I'll never get there, but just like the just striving to be more and more like Jesus, the greatest leader of all time,
Yeah.
like that gap is still so vast. That's the area I'm still focused on. Like, reading Titus this morning, just continuing to dive into the word. Like I've read over 1,000 personal development and leadership books in my since 22 years old. I didn't
Yeah.
read a book in high school or college
Yep.
because they were assigned to me. I
Yep.
didn't want books assigned to me. I wanted to read on my own volition. But now I'm like finding myself diving into truth more
Yeah.
and just continue to read the Bible and continue to see how that plays out and just continue to get that great example of leadership, true leadership.
I love it, man. And this is, and I'll ask one more kind of on this thread here, and then I want to go back to some other. I want to give everybody a good enough overview here too, so where some of these guys can come in and start diving some questions. But I want to pull that thread a little more too. I love what you said right there, and looking at that leadership model, that's right there ahead of us for you in your faith journey. And again, I think this is a yes and scenario as well. But if you had to pick one, is it more about looking at the example and working on that identity to create a bridge from where Josh is now to where Jesus is? Like, is it more creation on that, or does the progress happen for you more because you remain curious and you ask questions about, now that we realize again as we get older, we go, crap, we know nothing. Like, we're morons. At least that's how I say it to myself in a playful way, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, I know nothing. I'm an idiot. And so is it okay, here's my example, I'm going to create, or is it, okay, here's the example, I'm going to be curious and see if I can ask the right question that unlocks this and makes this make more sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
How
yeah.
do you look at it?
I think it's a mix of both, but if I had to pick one, it's more about the creation because really what I want to see and how I want to lead is in a way that others want to lead like that as well. So if I
Mm,
can create an example of how to lead your life in a righteous way,
mm,
because that's what my father-in-law's example was to me. Like I even wrote in my book, and I know that if he was still alive, he'd hate that I say these words, but he is the closest living example to Jesus that I ever saw.
mm.
And if I can lead like that and have others just start to emulate that, to find that peace, to find that love, to find that hope and faith, like that, that to me would be a huge win. Not just to lead more people to Jesus, but like again, like even if you didn't believe what I believed and you
Yeah.
just researched the life of Jesus, you would notice that there was the best leader of all time.
Mhm.
And you could even stay agnostic. I'd find it hard to believe that you could. That being said, I'll leave room for that and say you could remain agnostic and not believe that he was the Messiah and still find the best leader of all time and start to emulate your life like that. You will create ripple effects of other leaders beyond
Mm,
that.
mm. Really good, man. Okay, and that's perfect segue too, because I want to take that down two paths. I want to take that down the leadership path for family and legacy, and I want to take that, and we'll come back around to the leadership path with what you're doing with community, with scaling, business wise. I want to go down all of those. So talking about it from a family and legacy sort of path, what does, um, as a husband, as a father, and as a coach, what does it look like for you to go, okay, I got to protect family time when the calendar is screaming scale, right? Like how are you balancing those? Because if I've done my research correctly, you and our kids are about the same. At least our oldest, I think, they're almost exactly the same age. I think you and I are about the same age. It's an interesting stage of life. We're both coming to that. Hey, we thought we had our stuff together when we were in our 20s and 30s. Now we're figuring out in our mid 40s. Oopsie, right? We didn't, but we get to lead and do all these great things with great humans now. And there's the balance of all of that. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's seasons of life, right? Like
Yeah.
if I had stayed on that, it's sometimes, interesting to think about. If I had stayed on my trajectory, like I had things humming as a machine. I had, 115 advisors that were producing revenue within the firm. And my job was to continue to cultivate them as humans and recruit and find and develop some others. But now starting over, choosing to start over essentially, because I could have gone back into that industry and I had received multiple very big offers. And I chose to give myself a $0 offer and build something different. There's a season that I'm in right now where we are scaling, and I have a big vision for the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I essentially started over.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's times that conversations with my wife, like, so for instance, my girls' dance schedule, my girls are all competitive dancers. That's already on my calendar next year.
Yep.
Spring break's already on my calendar next year. Like those are things I'm not going to miss. So if I get a speaking engagement or if a client needs to see me, like, hey, we're going to work around those dates.
Yep.
Right. So those big important things are already on the calendar for next year so that I am there as dad.
That's
But
right.
there's also sometimes like the next month and a half, it's for a lot of my EOS clients, we do 2-day annual plannings. And that falls in November, December, and there's some travel in there. And I've already given my wife that schedule. And it's one of those things where we just are okay with missing a little bit of time. And it's usually 1 or 2 days that I'm gone, but we're balancing that. Like my kids are 14, 12, 10, and 8, and they're in all the things.
Mm,
So it's a function of the big things. I'm always there.
that's
As
right.
many of the nights that I'm there, the nights that I have to miss just because, we're still building and growing and scaling, like that's well communicated in advance.
Yep.
If I'm ever going to a mastermind event or a speaking engagement or that I'm not being paid for, like I have one rule with my wife, and I've said this over the years, and I think it's a good rule that you guys can all replicate. If I have to travel without you, I promise to return a better man.
Mm, I like
And
that.
so I'm very intentional about the things that I pick. Like I'm a part of the Arate syndicate. Like if I choose to go to one of their events,
Yeah.
I am intentional about my time there, who I meet there, who I interact with there to make sure that I come back as a better human being.
Yeah, man. I like that a lot. Shout out to RJ. Andy's a buddy. Good guy. Good group of humans. And I like that a lot. My kids, so mine 14, 12, and 9, right? So we're saying kids are same age. Same sort of deal on the travel and the seasons, right? And just being very intentional. It's like we know I got a lot of travel here for the next 6 weeks here to wrap up the year. But then, just like you, taking a look at next year, it's like how many things can we plug in to make sure these are non-negotiable? I'm going to be here, but everything is well communicated, not just even with my wife, but with the kids too. This is where I'm going. This is why I'm doing it. This one is a paid speaking engagement. This one isn't, but here's why I'm doing it. Here's who I'm doing it for. Here's the goal, right? And bringing everybody along as part of that. It's part of that process. But I love the integration of, hey, if I've got to travel without you too, I'm going to come back a better man too. I'm going to steal that from you. I'm telling you right now.
Feel free.
Yeah.
I gave this talk. I gave that piece of advice. I was at my buddy Ben Newman's event, and I spoke on stage with Ben and Ed Milet that night to kick it off. And I gave everyone. I was like, "Hey, you guys came to Vegas. You're
Yeah.
here. Here's my one rule: when I travel, I'd love you all to steal it." But I
Yeah.
also want to give one other example to include you for all of you that do have kids, and especially as they get to the ages that Matt and I's kids are. I'm a part of this charitable group. We call ourselves 100 Men of Dane County, and the whole idea behind it is that we have 100 men giving $1,000 a quarter, so we can give away $100,000 to charity that affects each of the kids. And I just did a podcast on this. If anyone wants to replicate this model in any of their cities, like we're like the founders are great friends of mine, and they're willing to give you the playbook. So if any of you like this idea, by the way, feel free to steal it and have that impact in your city. Um, so the board gets hundreds of applications now. Our target is helping kids in our county, but
Mhm.
they get hundreds of applications. They wean them down to three. And then they send all of us, the members, those three videos and three applications. And I watch these videos with my kids. And I'm teaching them two things here, right? Like we're giving $1,000 a quarter. Like, so if you ask me to go to Starbucks one more time, hey, not that we can't afford it, but like I may say, hey, we're not going to spend money on that because we're giving $1,000 this quarter to these charities. And then I have them watch the videos with me. And they help choose which one I'm going to choose for first place to get that money that quarter.
I love it, man. Bringing them along. Well done. Well done. It's the thing we talk about again, talking about it over and over and over again is you being the best version of you is one thing. They need to see that, but you bringing them along allows them to experience that and allows them to internalize that as the normal thing, right? Like that is the way to live. They get to experience and be a part of it. That is going to more readily ensure that that's something that they continue at least in some form, as they continue to as they
Yep.
get older. So God, man, I love every bit of that. Okay, so coming back around to some of the EOS, um, some of the EOS work and working through with organizations here, do you see consistent blind spots with leaders that are trying to scale? Is that
Yeah.
what are some of the consistent things you're seeing there?
Yeah, and so actually, I'm glad you brought it back to scale because that's one thing I wanted to mention when you asked me about scale. What I realized real quick, so I had 250 people in my previous firm. I now have three on my team, so much smaller team. I brought what I did really intelligently was I brought my integrator from my previous firm and said, "Hey, I need you to build this next thing."
Yep.
And so with this, what I've realized when I got the vision down, I spent 7 hours with my coach. Uh, hashing through this vision because I had so much stuff. And by the way, I'll just give this caveat. When you're gifted at something and you're finding struggle in that, it is maddening. So I am a 98% visionary, and I had all these puzzle pieces in my head that weren't aligning. And I literally, because I meet with my coach, 1 hour every other week.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, hey, I need you for a day. I need to put these puzzle pieces together. And he was willing to do that. We spent 7 hours hashing through these puzzle pieces because it was driving me mad. I was like, I'm gifted at this. I do this all day for other people, and I've done it for myself for 20 years. How am I not putting this together? It was maddening, but we got it together. And what I realized really quickly, and God kind of slapped me upside the back of the head and is like, hey, dummy, I didn't tell you to do this alone.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the biggest things that people are missing is like, you're not meant to walk it alone.
That's
And
right.
so you may need a mentor, you may need coaches, you may need to hire some really intelligent people that think opposite of you to help you along in that mission. Or maybe it's a partner. Like in
Mhm.
this next vision, next iteration, my coach is going to be one of those partners. A guy that I wrote about in my book who's still a tremendous financial advisor, but he built his practice now where he only works 3 hours a day. He
Yeah.
has a bunch of time. He's going to be one of the chief coaches on the team. Like I'm building the team and the machine of just highly skilled, highly competent, just amazing individuals now to take it to the next level because what I'm gifted at, just like I was in my previous life, was being CEO. I've been producer for the last 4 years, and I'm
Yeah.
very good at that. But I'm gifted at being CEO. So I need to go back to CEO and coach other coaches to be underneath me to really grow and scale this thing.
I'm so glad you laid that out that way too. And you said something interesting that I don't want to be missed, right? I won't say everybody knows, but we talk enough about, hey, when you're building something, building an organization, find some others who, just kind of figure out what you are really good at. Find others that find the integrator, find somebody else that really shines in the areas that you don't and shines far better than you ever could in these various areas. And we want to plug them in. All of that I think is very much true. But what you said that was interesting was also finding somebody who sees things from another direction, like who looks at things from an opposite standpoint as you, right? Because that's another thing we can get ourselves to where it's like, okay, I am this, and I'm in lane A, and I got a lane B and a C and a D, and they all shine right there, and we will do well with that. But if every single one of them automatically is a yes man to every single one of your ideas, that's gonna
Yeah.
that's gonna hinder things too, right? You need somebody to go, here's a different perspective that we might want to think about that's completely contrary to what you just initially came up with. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's called diversity in thought.
Yes,
And
sir.
that's so like, as I told you about my well, in that Fortune 100 company, there was a big push for DEI,
Yeah.
and that was the height of the BLM stuff and all that. And there's some good things about that and some bad things, just like anything in life. And but what was interesting is I had a diverse table, but they all thought very similarly to me because they all had the same upbringing in the financial industry. What I
Right.
realized is that I didn't have that integrator at the table to go, "Hey, great discussion, guys, but what are we going to actually do about it?"
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as she stepped in the room, as soon as I hired Alicia, that's exactly what happened. We got to solutions. We got to a brake to my gas because I'm all gas, no brakes.
Yep.
And we got someone to go, let's think about this smarter, not just grind harder.
Man, so good, so good, so needed. Um, so talking about the grind side, and gentlemen, as you guys are on here too, I know we're halfway through, so you guys start putting your hands up. I'll start bringing you guys in. Get your individual questions coming in. Talking about that grind through, and I think again, I think you and I are built very similarly in a lot of ways, and so that can for some people that maybe aren't. I won't say this about you. I'll say it about myself. Some people that aren't warped and overly obsessive and just continuously go and feel like they don't do well unless they're doing that. It's probably not a healthy thing, but you get this world of burnout, for
Mhm.
so many people as they're building something. And in this world of burnout, you built what's it, book and bourbon, right?
Brook and Bourbon Club. Yeah.
Book and bourbon club, right? And so you've got this space for connection, for conversation. And tell me about that. Where did that come from? We see the need for, it's powerful to have a space for men to be able to slow down, to focus on some growth and have the byproduct be a little bit more of a balanced mental health sort of deal. So where did that come from and how's that been going?
So it's been awesome. It's funny, we actually do have a couple women in there. A couple women approach me and go, "Hey, is this just for dudes?" And I
Nice.
was like,
Yeah.
"No.
Yeah.
If you like learning and you like
Yeah.
books, you like bourbon, you're more than welcome."
Yeah.
So it was actually my first mastermind that I started. There's two different skill sets in being a coach. One-on-one coaching is being able to impact and pour into, kind of mentor at the same time. Um, in group settings, like you're leading here even today, like facilitation's a different skill set
Yeah.
that needs to be developed when you have groups of people. And EOS and other things that I've built over my life has really helped me become that great facilitator of great conversation and bringing more minds into the conversation. But
Mm,
I just tossed it out there honestly. Is that, hey, I like these two things. I wonder if others do as well.
mm,
And so I started a local group where we could meet at my farm. And then as soon as I put it on social media, I had a bunch of people go, "Hey, I want in on that." And so then we had to figure it out, like, okay, we're going to ship boxes with samples of bourbon, the book, some other trinkets, and ship them out each month. And it's all entrepreneurs, and they typically don't have these points of connection like you've built here. Like, they're lonely, they're going about it themselves. So we're
right.
reading a book, we're digesting that, we're going to talk a little bit about the book, but very quickly the conversation spins off into a business conversation or a familial
Yeah.
conversation or a spiritual conversation. Like, and we only allot about an hour and a half, sometimes it goes 2 hours, but and then once a year I fly them into the farm and we get together for a couple days where we're able to break some bread together and really dive deep. And I go through kind of a mastermind session over 2 days and include some fun like shooting guns or going out on the lake or whatever it might be. So we're on the fourth season now, where like it was just a harebrained idea that turned
Yeah.
into something awesome.
Good for you, man. I love it. What are some of the books you guys have been diving into, or what are maybe some of your personal favorites that you guys have gone into?
So initially, I started with some of the classics like Think and Grow Rich, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, some of the books that need to be reread over time. And
Yep.
now I'll take uh, recommendations, but it has to be by more than one person.
Yeah.
And then one of the coolest things was, after 3 years of running this at the fly-in, being able to hand them my book uh, and be able to talk about that and get feedback on it. And then, the part of the call, I'm sitting there going, "Guys, hey, I don't need you to blow smoke up my ass. If there was something that sucked about it, tell me that too."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I see the attributes behind you.
Yeah,
We read that. We got it through a couple of Jocko's books. The books that are around, Goggins, Cam Hanes, stuff like that. Guys are like, they're all the same. Let's stop reading those.
yeah, yeah,
We get it. These guys are badasses and they've got a
yeah,
great story, but it's all the same. So we're trying to get leadership, like communication was a theme for one quarter last year, because it doesn't matter what stage of leadership you're in, communication is always going to be a
yeah,
key skill set to have. So we switch it up, and I take recommendations now. I like going from old to new. And if we have
yeah.
to read something that's heavy or dense, making that like a John Gordon book the next month where it's
Yep.
less dense, more story.
I love it, man. Oh, I love it. So good. Well, and I got a handful. I got a handful too. I'll connect with you afterwards. With all this too, and I got a bunch that we've been going through too. That I'll just throw out a bunch to you, and you probably read half of them, and some of them you may not have heard of, but and take it for whatever it is. But it'd be fun
Yeah,
to
there could be some good ideas in there for sure.
yeah, some good stuff in there. So cool, man. I definitely want to talk about the process of writing the book for you too, but you also said something around facilitation. And gentlemen, again, if you guys don't raise hands, no worries, but I will just continue to keep going. So if you want to jump in with something, I'm not going to ask anymore. You can jump in. If not, no big deal, because this is a piece of cake. So the facilitation part, that is an interesting skill set. You mentioned the coaching, the one-on-one. There is the facilitation piece. Then there's like speaking from the stage. All of those are very different skill sets. They all obviously rely on your ability to communicate. Like you mentioned, huge part of leadership, but they are a different skill set. You have the podcast as well, right? Like a Spartan leadership,
Mhm.
right? So how did that come about? Why the decision to start with that, and how have you found that so far?
So I actually started a podcast when I owned my financial firm. My marketing guy brought it to me at the time, said, "Hey, this will position you as kind of a leader in this firm, especially locally." And the idea was
Yeah,
to interview local leaders from community based to business based, all and everything in between. And we did that for a couple of years. And then obviously what happened to me. And I was like, well, am I going to continue on with this podcast? I really actually enjoyed those conversations.
yeah,
But actually, let me back up. When he brought it to me, it was like all the marketing reasons to do it. And I said, Chad, those are all great. If I'm going to do this, I need a deeper purpose. And what I found was the deeper purpose was that it was about my kids. I was
mhm,
like, Mike, if anything ever happens to me, because again, I'm in the financial planning space, I delivered death claim checks from 2 years old to 90 years old. Like, I know I'm not immune to life's happenings. They would always have my voice. And I was like,
mhm,
that's something I could get behind, is like they would always have my voice on this podcast theme. So that was my purpose. So then continuing on, I was like, well, do I want to stay with the same branding or name of it? And we end up switching it to Spartan Leadership, which I couldn't believe what wasn't taken already.
yeah,
So we snatched that up quick. But now it's just been interviewing high achievers, entrepreneurs, and most of them still on the climb. My niche is like Ed Milet and Lewis Howes, and those guys get like the big names, right?
sure,
And they kind of do a circuit of podcasts, and they have the same people. And for a lot of us, like, they're so far up here, it's really hard for us to connect. Yeah, we may pick up some nuggets, but like, they're so far up here, it's really hard for us to connect when we're still on the climb. So I want to interview entrepreneurs and people that have had some level of success, but they're still
yeah,
climbing as well.
yeah,
And then once a month, I was sitting in a cigar bar and having conversation with people, and I've done this throughout the last 20 years of my life. Cigar bars are one of those places that if any of you attend them, like, you can get into some deep conversations with
yeah,
all walks of life.
yeah,
And you walk up, and like, you got no one's screaming at each other, no one's fighting. Like, you could be sitting with a liberal or a conservative or a gay person or straight, like, it's all socioeconomic classes, all walks of life, and you're bonding over tobacco.
yeah,
And I was like, what is it about a cigar bar that we can have these deep conversations? And so I built a studio in my hayloft where we can smoke cigars. And once a month, I do a leadership and review, kind of similar to Andy's CTI, where we just have some discourse on political stuff and assess their leadership or lack of leadership.
yeah.
And it's been a ton of fun. We've gotten a lot of growth. I have people that tell me those are our favorite episodes, and I only do them once a month. Um, but it's been a joy to continue to grow that and have those conversations and
Cool,
just
man.
be able to say whatever I want.
How cool, man. I love that. And I think what's interesting, um, trying to figure out how to I want to say this tactfully and respectfully because it's very much intended with all due respect. And we have had some amazing humans. Andy's come on the show, and so I mean, we can rattle off some very high level names that have been on Lewis's show and so that have been on this show too, and they're phenomenal and great people, and they've got some nuggets, like you said, that you'll pull away. But I think one of the things that happens is a lot of people will hear that, they'll take some of the nuggets of like, ooh, that's cool, that's inspirational, it's motivational, but it doesn't apply to me because, right, and so this is somebody that I relate more to, they're coming up or whatever. But what's interesting is if you listen to both, man, the patterns still tend to be the same.
Yeah.
They really do. You're just at a different spot on the timeline, or you've got somebody that has gone a little further here and sacrificed some other thing that you may not even want to sacrifice as a list. Like they may have sacrificed this piece of the puzzle to go after this. I mean, you find some of the patterns to just really be the same. And so when people can just take that away and understand we're all capable of building whatever we want to build on that, man, that's a big deal. I love it.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, I love what you're doing on that. The book. How about the process of writing a book?
Something,
How was that?
yeah, something I never thought I'd do.
Yeah.
Had never had it put on my heart. And I think I even said this in the book, like if my English teachers were still alive, if they are, they'd be shocked that not only I wrote a book and then it became a number one bestseller, but the process of it was 12 months. So again, the kids thing, growing business thing, I did it on the weekends in the morning. So I actually treated it like I used to treat my studying for exams in the financial industry. It would be like early in the morning, Saturday and Sunday mornings, and then have the rest of the day to be with the family. And then there was points of like inspiration where like, oh, and I had the time, I'd be like, oh, I'd hop back in that. And I was literally just doing it on Word. I didn't have any special documents or system or anything for it. And then come January of this year, I got to over 50,000 words. I'm like, I might have a book here. I don't know if it's a very good one, but I think I might have a book here. And so I get it to a couple people and they're like, oh, this is really good. And then when I finally chose the hybrid publisher, because I didn't want to necessarily go down the path of trying to shop it to the big five, probably could have, but I knew that was going to take time and it was unlikely because I don't have a massive social media following that I would land a deal, at least one that was lucrative enough for me to really care about.
Right.
So get it to them. I was like, hey, the editing piece, like I want this to be a great book. So I need an editor that's going to tell me, hey, this is fluff, get it out of there. Hey, this is a great point, but you didn't elaborate for far enough. Like tell me this stuff and then help me organize it and package it in such a way that not only will the lessons be learned, but people will really enjoy the read.
Yeah, man.
And so that took about 6 months, the beginning of this year, and then it rolled out in September.
That's awesome. Oh, it's exciting, man. That's really exciting. And from everything I can tell, it's been extraordinarily well received.
Yeah, it's been really well received. People tell me it's hard to put down because I put so many vulnerable and personal stories in there.
Yeah.
And that's from like the first part of it. And then the back part of it is all the Five Bridges lessons that I want people to really tap into and to take those lessons home with them.
So good, man. Let's get some of these studs in here too. Mr. Trabowski. Good to see
Good
you.
morning, guys. Josh, thank you so much for your time this morning. This is great. So, I guess my question comes from the new entrepreneur. Took 2 years for us to launch our campus. We're 10 weeks operational now, and I love the process of building something. And it was so much fun to see it come to fruition. And I've literally disappeared from the face of the earth over the last 10 weeks because I am knee deep in the operations side of it now. And I guess my question is some advice or maybe some things I'm not looking at, but what I'm already seeing neglected is the business side of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, like, I was really good at building it and finding all these people and bringing everybody together. And like as soon as we launched, I went knee deep in the operations. And now I need to get back to the other side of this, and I need to bring more families on board. I need to continue to press the message. Maybe some advice of what it looks like from, I guess, the CEO founder standpoint to wear both hats and how to switch mindsets there and go back and forth between that. Because I'm kind of
Yeah,
lost in the overwhelm of it.
that's a hard one, buddy. It's a hard period or season. That being said, this too shall pass. That's biblical as well. Now, are you good at operations?
Not as good as I am at building community and
Agreed.
yeah, no, not as good as
All
the
right.
other side, the 2 years leading up to launching.
Yeah, and neither am I, and that's why I brought that integrator with me because I knew I needed her for the operations and all the stuff that I'm not good at. So the easy thing for me to say would be for you to go and hire operations as soon as possible, someone really highly competent in that area. That being said, revenue may not be there yet. So it's good at this time for you to be able to know some of it, even if you're having to struggle through it, because you'll be that better equipped to lead the person that's going to be way better at it than you. But what I would say, something really tactical, is if you're not taking a clarity break at least once a week, that is something I'll tell you right away. This was something I was doing even before I knew EOS, and then it's taught in EOS. So it was great that it was reinforced. But at least once a week, take an hour away from the office and your home. That's the rule. Can't be at either of those places. Find yourself a happy place like coffee shop, park bench, whatever. You just go with a notepad and a pen. Put your phone away, put computer away, and literally this is your time to go through recurring thoughts, structure, some negative emotions or negative thoughts, like work through it, like whatever it may be. That's your clarity time to get you back on track. So that's more of a weekly tactical thing. The other thing I would tell you is that we do need those times out of the business to work on the business, right? So one of the things we do with EOS is we demand that the leadership team once a quarter, once it's one full day, we get out of the business to work on the business, because that's where you can solve some of those tactical issues, those bigger issues, and also be able to think about the future so that you can think about scaling in a different way. It's like, hey, because a lot of times what happens when we get lost in the busyness is we get enthusiastically running in the wrong direction.
Mhm.
And so we got to make sure that, hey, we slow down enough, like just once a quarter, to check in. Hey, how did we win this quarter? Or did we lose on some things because we weren't as focused as we should have been? And so then we can go, okay, how do we want to attack the next quarter and really make sure that we're focused and don't get lost running in the wrong direction, for the sake of busyness.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Is just coming up for air, like the park bench with the notepad is. I think that's what's missing. So I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, and use this, like use the notes section or the reminder section and just keep a list for like clarity break topics, like recurring thoughts, negative thoughts, positive thoughts, recurring visionary thoughts, whatever it may be, that you're just creating a list there that you want to tap into when you do give yourself that clarity break.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and thanks again for your time today.
Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
spot and just knowing you, Mikey, he's spot on that too. Because you will want, it's exactly it. It's the funky transition. You getting enough operational stuff under your belt, but you do not need to get stuck in operations. You need to know what's going on, and then you guys are going to need to, as soon as you can, bring somebody in. That was one of, scaling our first campus. Shout out to Kelsey. Right? You're going to need to find your Kelsey, because she came in operationally and just she was the integrator that needed to be there, and I could get back out and work on it, and that was scale. And you're going to need the same thing. You're built the same way.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Good man, really good. Mr. Walsh, what's happening?
Josh, sir, thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
I do have two questions. The first question, and I'd like to clarify that I have not read your book, going over kind of breezing through the 5 different bridges. My question is when you're going through those, is one come first? Are they in, or even better question is, are they in order, or is there one's a priority first and then it goes from there?
So they are in order.
Okay.
That being said, you may be further ahead. So I see you're probably into CrossFit with your CrossFit name right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So your physical health, your bridge number 2 may be a really high score right now because you've placed emphasis there, right? So the LQ assessment will tell you, give you a score on each of the 5 bridges, and then it'll give you a totality score as well. right? So your focus may be spiritual or it may be relationships, not as much internal because you've been crushing internal, right? Because you're a fit guy, that's your focus, that's your business, right? That may not be like, you may score a 90 on that and like, there's room for improvement, but I'm doing really well here. So like, what are the areas that I need improvement on? Oh, spiritual, I'm rated at a 54. Okay, what do I want to do? What steps do I want to take to start bridging that gap? And then relationships, am I placing those in the right order? Because us as business owners, right, this was a big aha I had when I, lost my firm, was like, man, during COVID, I would have meetings from 8 to 5 standard. And then, from 5 to 9, I was playing part-time psychologist to 250 people. And my kids and wife were taking the back seat. That's not right. Right. So my prioritization was messed up. So my prioritization in relationships is God first, yourself second, your spouse if you have one, your kids if you have them, and then everyone else. But too often we're putting everyone else in front of those first four. Right. So they are in order, and the order should be kept, sacred. But again, if you're crushing internal and maybe you're crushing spiritual, but relationships are lacking, that's your area of opportunity.
It's funny you say that, because I think that there was a time probably around that 2001, 2000 somewhere, to where I was doing too much physical. And I literally had a conversation this morning talking about that I was neglecting my relationship with my wife and my kids, because I had this standard that I was setting for myself for my physical fitness, and it was an impossible standard to keep to maintain. And once I let go of that, spiritual relationships, all those things got better.
Yeah, look, I put my first 75 hard journey in the book. Like, you even think about that, like as a busy entrepreneur, as a family man, like 75 hard takes a toll on the family if it's not communicated well and you're not, making sure your priorities are your priorities, because there is a lot more that you're trying to sandwich in with all the other stuff that you have going on. So I always tell people that are considering it and they're married and have kids, I'm like, is your wife on board? Is your husband on board? Because if they're not, this could be a problem over the next 75 days.
Yeah. Well, Matt knows I'm just trying to be stronger than my wife, so.
And failing. Anyways, no, you guys are rock stars. I love, what you just said right there too, Josh. Like, the purpose of 75, at least Andy was on here and he said, look, the purpose is about priorities. It's a purpose is learning to prioritize. The beauty is, if you're folding all of those things in and you're staying consistent, and that's the goal of the whole thing, is 75 consistent days, it forces you to prioritize. It forces you to look at a schedule. It forces you to get in the habit of being consistent. It forces you to communicate with others around you. This is what I'm doing and this is why I'm doing it. So even when you stop that specific 75 days and those specific patterns, the lessons are supposed to remain the same. The consistency matters. The communication matters around what I'm prioritizing what I'm prioritizing and why I'm prioritizing it. It's that's what's supposed to remain out of all of that.
Yep.
Did
you have a second one, Brian, or did we answer it?
I did. I've kind of started asking everybody this, but do you have a definition of leadership?
So I've leaned towards a couple different definitions, and because it's a great question that you're asking everyone, because everyone's definition will be different. That being said, as I stated earlier, my definition is following Jesus as an example. What's interesting about, and then the secondary one that I use is John Maxwell's, which is leadership as influence. And Jesus was the greatest example of influence. But what was interesting about Jesus, in a great book that I read recently, actually had my Book and Bourbon Club read it as well, was The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Have you read that one, Matt?
No, sir.
Oh, great book. Great book. The only thing I could tell, because the dude was from Portland, that he leaned left. And there's a couple things I didn't agree with in the book, like driving the speed limit. I can't get on board with that. That being said, it had some great principles in there. And one of the things that really made it clear on is, like, Jesus was never in a hurry. He was always purposeful, but we never read a passage where Jesus was sprinting somewhere.
Yeah.
And so he was talking about a lot in our lives, and just being kind, being intentional, being purposeful, being true to the word, and being leading by example, like all the things Jesus did. But the one thing he didn't do was hurry. And
Interesting.
how much hurry do we have in our lives? How much are we speeding from one thing to the next? And just kind of reflecting on that, where can we slow down and be better and more intentional and more purposeful in our lives? I think that's more like, for me, I have a mantra that I go, that every time I transition, and I did it even as I was walking from my office into this house to record this podcast, is like, hey, I want to be the best hour of Matt's day. If I go into a coaching call at the next hour, I want to be the best hour for them. And it's, for me, it's just setting that intention to, I'm reframing, okay, I'm jumping from this thing to that thing, but I'm setting the intention that I'm going to give everything I have to this next meeting, be fully present, be fully immersed in what they have going on and how I can help, how I can drive the most impact. And so if I could define it, Jesus is the easy answer, but I think it's really about leading by example through his word and continuing to be better. Like, there is never an arrival point to leadership. That's why I said, like, that gap for me is so big to get to where I want to go as a leader. And most people from the outside looking in would say Josh is a great leader, and me, I have to sit here in my humility and say, yeah, I have so much room to grow.
Good, man. So good at the end there too, Bri.
Yeah.
Like the fact that there's no arrival point, I firmly believe, is why people get out of leadership and they want to attempt to go into leadership. And then as you go further and further, you start to have to get to that realization. You have to get to the realization where you are humbled, where you go, gosh, I just don't know. And there is no arrival time. And then you've got to decide to keep going anyways and be intentional to serve others. It's a hard point for people to, it's a hard sticking point.
Yeah, it's, you know, I always use the example, you know, I take a burn the boats philosophy to where with my business, it was a burn the boats philosophy. I was going to, the only failure for me was giving up, and that's not an option. So the same thing when we started our campus, and it's kind of the same thing in leadership. It's like, well, I want to be a leader, and I will find a way, no matter what, because in my mind, the only failure is quitting, and I won't quit.
Yep. No.
Well, let me reframe. You are a leader, Brian. You're
Yes.
all leaders. And so you don't want to be a leader. You are a leader, and you're a growing leader.
Yeah.
It's having that Kanai mindset of constant and never ending improvement.
That's right. Well said. Well
Yeah,
said.
thank you.
Yeah, good stuff, Brian. I know we are at the hour. I know Adam has a hand up too. Do you have time for one last one before we do? I want to make sure.
I have some freedom here.
Okay, I want to make sure we honor your time. I appreciate it. Mr. Mraz.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh, for your time and joining us. A question I got for you is around your coaching when you're selecting your clients. I've worked with EOS clients in the past, or like had coaches for my companies and stuff too. When you're selecting clients, how do you select ones that are actually going to change something and not just complain about things and never actually do anything? Or do you care? You're just like, cool, I'll coach you and tell you what to do and just watch you not do anything.
No, so it's a great question. I love it. I laugh because it's true. The individual coaching is different. Like, I tell people who I'm for and who I'm not for, and they got to make that decision, because I'm going to go into like, hey, you're calling me about business coaching, but I'm going to coach you on your spiritual, your internal, your relationships. Like, I'm going to push you. If like you're not being the husband or the wife that you say you want to be, I'm going to press that button. If you're not living up to your standard as far as being in physical health so you can be around for your kids 20 years from now, I'm going to press that button. And we won't talk about business until that's right. And so if you don't want that, I'm not your guy. Now, as far as EOS coaching is concerned, that's obviously more of a leadership team decision. And there's only two spots EOS doesn't work. One is a publicly traded company, because the shareholders control the decision making, not the leadership team so much. And then the second place is what you're tapping on here, is the egotistical leader that won't let go. And I've only had one instance where I had someone sitting at this table where they had the whole leadership team here. We get through the accountability chart and we assign names everything. And the CEO goes, yeah, none of them are ready for that. And I go, what? Why did we just go through this exercise if you were just going to say, because at the same, out of the other side of his mouth, he's saying that he's overburdened, overtired, and he's ready to pass some things on. Needless to say, that person did not continue on as a client because that leader wasn't ready to let go, even though he's in his 50s and he's talking out of both sides of his mouth, and he wasn't entrusting his team to take over some of these responsibilities. So the only time that EOS doesn't work is really that leadership team, or the leader, or the key leader, not willing to trust their team, not willing to bring other smart people in to help them scale and grow, and have an opinion on that differ from his or hers.
It's really good,
I
man.
can't work with those people. It's frustrating because I can't sit there and let like the team sitting at that table essentially just be disrespected and whatnot. And one of the cool things that's in the EOS community for all of you to know is we have this like internal mantra. Did I say something or lean into the fire enough today to potentially get myself fired? Like the clients will never know that outside of me saying this to you guys publicly right now. But that's a mantra inside the EOS community because we want to enter the danger. We want to make sure that they're growing to the capacity they're growing as a leadership unit so they can take the business where they want to go. So oftentimes that's us bringing up a sensitive subject or calling out a leader when they're acting like a dick, like this guy was. And so it's entering the danger. We talk about that internally in the community a lot to make sure, hey, we're risking getting fired by making sure they become their best versions of themselves.
That's great. I love that, entering the fire of even just being willing to say the thing that needs to be said, and consequences are the consequences of whatever it needed to be said. That's great.
Yeah.
It's really good, man. Good question, Adam. I want to make sure I want to obviously be able to keep the conversation rolling. You're doing some amazing things, man. We obviously have a lot of mutual friends, mutual connections. I want to make sure we do our due diligence on this side to get the book into as many hands as possible too. So obviously we'll put this internally, but we're going to put it externally as well, out for a podcast. Where do you want people to go to find more about you, your work, grab the book? How can we help you on that?
Well, I made it pretty easy. It's all on joshkosnick.com. And the link on joshkosnick.com will take you to Amazon to get the book. But you can check out the rest of the stuff I'm doing. So what I love is having people out here at the farm. And so the more people I can have here, if you guys want to run a leadership day here, you want to run a retreat here, I don't even need to be involved. I just want people to experience this place. And for those of you that are from the South, you probably don't want to come to Wisconsin in the winter, but any other time of the year, you're more than welcome. But it's a great spot. You can, I have a separate website for that, but I'm pretty sure you can get to it from my website. And the other piece of it is take the LQ assessment, see where you're at. It's totally free. And you can take it multiple times. My encouragement is if you're going to work hard on something for 90 days, take it at the beginning, take it at the end, or during your annual planning as we're heading into that season right now, which I've been working on it since the beginning of fourth quarter. It's a great time to take it, see what steps you need to take going into 2026 to become the best version of yourself.
I love it, man. So good. And hey, if you need to leave Wisconsin in the winter, I have a farm here in the South. So you're more than welcome.
Perfect.
You're more than welcome, man. You're more than welcome to, come on out and break away from that. It still gets cold, but it does Wisconsin cold.
February is the time I get real sick of the cold.
Yeah,
and so I've already committed, like when my kids are out of the house, we will have a place in Florida.
There you go. Good for you, man. That's it. Yeah. Well, we're not quite as warm as Florida either, but we got a nice farm here in the mountains of North Carolina. And February we'll have baby goats running around, man. So you can come out here and wrestle some of those.
Awesome.
Bring the kids out here. We can wrestle those too, man. So, brother, thank you. Thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you for obviously spending the time with us today too. But for leading, man, and choosing to lead, especially as we get older and we realize, oh my gosh, the more we get into this, we don't know anything, but we choose to serve anyways. Because it's the calling and it's what God's put in our DNA, man. So thank you for answering that call.
Yeah, very welcome. And thanks for having me. It's been my honor.
Honor's been ours. I'm going to bring these guys through a debrief. We got Claude Silver coming in with our ladies here from Vayner Media in a little bit. So a little bit later tonight, once I get done with her too, I'm going to shoot you a message and see what we can do to keep the conversation rolling.
All right, perfect, Matt. Hey, great being with you all today.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate you.
Thank you.